Hello and welcome to the first edition of Journalist Hangout this week. We continue the countdown to the first big election in Nigeria. It's just 5 days to go, and more events are dropping with the speed of light. How well will these shape the elections? We will be here to help you catch your breath and, of course, make sense of these ever-changing scenes. Today on the program, Leah Sharibu family begs the federal government, the UK and the US, as Lai Mohammed insists that Leah Sharibu is alive. Buhari expresses hope in resolving the Zamfara APC crisis. At the CCT trial, Onoga insists he made his money legitimately, gets a fresh query from the ANJC, and later on the show, as elections approach, Nigeria's IGP Adamu orders watertight security around INEC offices nationwide. I'll be hanging out with Asoko James and Janet Mba Afolabi. I'm Sulaiman. Our later Journalist Hangout starts now. It's a few weeks shy of the one-year mark. The growing concern over the safety of Leah Sharibu, the last Dapchi schoolgirl still in Boko Haram captivity, resonates far and near. Now, on Sunday, the mother, Rebecca Sharibu, refused to let hope die of her daughter's freedom. Addressing journalists in Abuja, Rebecca pleaded with President Muhammadu Buhari to fulfill his promise of securing the release of her daughter. Her address was born out of reports that Leah had been killed. Now, but the federal government, through the information minister, Lai Mohammed, described the report as fake news. The world is waiting, or so it seems. Gentlemen, lady. I'm used to having men all through. But all the same, let's start with you, Janet. Leah Sharibu. And people are still counting. And with that news that came out, perhaps if that hadn't, resurfaced again, do you think we would have gotten any word from the federal government concerning Leah Sharibu?
If that news hadn't come out, we would not get a word. That's what I think. We would not have gotten any word from the federal government because the political activities have taken over a lot of things, including that of Leah. So they would not have said anything because nobody has mentioned, not even other presidential aspirants have mentioned that they want to rescue Leah. So Leah had gone into the background for a while, and the steam over her release was already easing out until this so-called fake news came, and then everybody is talking about Leah again. So I ask, what is the source of the first news that said Leah is dead? What is the source? And even Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information, that came out to say Leah is alive. What is the source of information too? Because the two sides have not given evidence to show that Leah is dead or alive. And maybe that's why the mother came out to cry out to international communities and the federal government and reminded the federal government of the promise they made when they visited her in October last year. And she even appealed to their conscience by quoting a Hausa proverb which says that when you make a promise, it is the best thing for you to do is to keep it. But she was talking to politicians, so politicians are not very good at keeping promises. Many of them make promises with the intention not to keep it, with the intention to get what they need at that time. Make the promises as a means to an end, not necessarily the end. So I feel for her because it's 1 year. She was kidnapped last February. This is another February. She was 14 when she was kidnapped, and now she's 15. And that also brings us to the question of security in schools. How secured are schools, especially girls' schools, when the girls are now the endangered species?
We'll come back looking at, safe school program and a couple of other issues that borders around security, which you just raised. But Asuko, when this news broke, because we have just two of them, and the other, as Janet rightly said, how did Lai Mohammed know that one aspect of the news is fake and what he was dishing out to the people is the genuine news?
Well, I think from what I was able to get from across is that the federal government we are actually making advanced moves to ensure that Leah was, returned and was released by the by our captors, and so maybe, I'm just trying to play the devil's advocate here, maybe the federal government, we are looking at maybe somebody leaking the idea, or somebody, just like Janet said, trying to remind the federal government that there's still somebody out there who has left her home, who was adopted for a very long time, for over a year, and nothing has been done. But from what Lai Mohammed said, it's like they were making moves. And perhaps it could have been like a political move, for instance, maybe some days to the election and she'll be released. That can be, part of the plan. Or this also jolted the federal government, in such a way that they didn't realize that the
Just
issue,
in case they had forgotten.
Exactly, that this particular issue will come out this soon, But it's good that it is coming out, because she seems to be the only one out there that nobody is talking about. No presidential candidate has ever said anything concerning how. They've all been saying security, 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 but nobody has mentioned her name. Not one. Even the ones that came and eventually they fell by the wayside, Not one of them has ever mentioned the name Leah Sharibu.
But let me bring this. Sorry to cut you there. I'll come back. Because both of you are on the same page on this concerning the candidates that we have seen going to the elections this Saturday. But isn't that a good thing that they didn't make it an election issue? Because a lot of people would have thought that, hey, why are you trying to make this an election issue, whether you are party A or B? We have seen that both parties, especially two different parties now in the country, APC and the PDP, haven't been able to handle the issue of security pretty well in terms of kidnapping of children.
I think they should have made it an issue. You are going to seek people's votes. You are going to solicit for support to win. So you sell yourself. It should have been one of the marketing strategies for those aspirants to sell themselves and say, we are talking about security, and if you vote us in, we are bringing back all the abductees, including Leah, this girl who has refused to renounce her faith, because it's about faith we are talking about here. She didn't commit any offense. And even from the Christian community, the aspirant should have also played it up, notwithstanding what people will say. People will always talk, but you just say your own, market yourself, because election season is an opportunity for you to showcase yourself, to sell yourself to the electorate, and it is what you bring that people will see. There is no way for us to read each other's mind. So you can't say it was in my mind that when I get in there, I'll bring Leah back. No, you have to say it for people to hear and know what you want to do.
But Asuka, in this case, it doesn't. Does it sit pretty well with you to bring in the angle which both of you had earlier mentioned, talking about the other candidates when truly they're not in charge? We're talking about the man on the seat. I think the government of the day should be the one talking about how Leah should be home and at least, Sam, and even have a good Valentine with the family.
No, exactly. But I'm looking at it from this way. If you're looking at the two big political parties in terms of security and securing the life of Leah, because something actually started before this kidnapping started, We had a Boko Haram who turned into a monster from one political party. Now there's another party who actually came under the heels that, okay, they are going to deal with the Boko Haram, you understand? And since then, we've had this kidnap. Few people, some girls were actually released, and then we have these two political parties claiming that, okay, that they are going to, solve the issue of insecurity. To me, those two political parties are not supposed to be talking about how to do it, because we already know it's already there in public.
So it's a case of being tested and tried and tested.
So they should just leave that one. Yes, they are making efforts, but what efforts? We want results. So I would have expected the new political parties, in quotes, the so-called third force or the other force or whatever, to act on this particular deficiency by these two big political parties for them to, campaign. But what I saw was them always coming to talk about other things other than this particular issue. Because I think Leah still being there it means that the nation has let her down, you know. And that is where these other political parties would have even latched on. But they just completely forgot about the girl until that yesterday. Look at how the mom was crying yesterday. It was so disheartening and, you know, very emotional. You know, I want to believe that all the political parties across board, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Because we have just 5 days to the elections, and if this is still hovering around some politicians giving the nation some form of remedy, you know, to all of this, what would be your prescription to us bringing Leah, as well as some others that are not being mentioned back home?
So many others have not been mentioned, but Leah's own is one of the prominent cases of kidnapping. And, you know, there are good surprises and bad surprises. So we would like to see Leah being brought out, being rescued alive, not dead, rescued alive as one of the biggest surprises of the year, or even in the history of our country, because we are going towards election. And do you know that if this government is able to rescue Leah alive, it will score a very good political point. Those who had been thinking maybe the anti-terrorism war is not succeeding will have a rethink. Some people will change their minds and vote for this government just because of that action. That's what I think. It is never too late. Even on Friday night, if Leah is brought out alive and shown, not just telling us that she has been rescued without nobody seeing her, show her on TV. It will change, the landscape will change tremendously.
Yes, exactly, without any political undertone.
Do you sense some form of discussion between the government and her captors? Because I still go back to Lai Mohammed saying that one piece of the news is fake. And let's take what he's told the nation as the real news. Does that indicate that there is some form of discussion between the government and her captors?
Yes, I think there is some discussions, you know, but the government will not want to jeopardize their own discussions in public, you know, because if they are discussing, people want to know on what are you discussing? Are you going to give money, or what are you, because, you know, these are some of the things that people will definitely want to ask. And that is, I think that is where Lai Mohammed actually came out to say that news is fake. So is actually coming out from the stronger position, knowing that actually there's something being done to ensure that Leah will come out alive and safe, you know. So I want to give Leah a benefit of doubt, you know, that that news is actually fake news. And I'm looking at it as from a journalistic point of view, that I will believe Lai Mohammed now, because I want to believe from his body language that the federal government is making plans or making effort to see that she's brought back home sound and safe and alive, you know. So I don't want to think of any other thing than that Leah is alive. So that fake news is fake news until otherwise, you know, until otherwise.
You chuckled on that. So what's your take? Are you on the same page with Asuko on this? You want to give him the benefit of the doubt?
Well, we'll give him the benefit of doubt as the spokesman of the federal government. So we'll give him that benefit of that. But it has to go beyond just calling it a fake news. Absolutely, even describe it as absolutely fake news. So if it's...
So he was...
It was sure. So the word, he used a very strong word, absolutely. When something is absolute, it's perfect. That's what it means, it's perfect. So in this situation, we want to now see it in action. We want to see empirical evidence of that absolutely, of fake news. Because if it's fake, so prove to us that Leah is alive. They don't have to go into security details of what is going on between the federal government and the other group, but they can say that we are doing something, and they didn't need to wait for the fake news to come out first before they reacted, because this is like reacting to what somebody else did. And I think that by now, the federal government should make it very clear that Leah is alive.
Well, I think Leah now is a contact point to security matters concerning a lot of children, because even though we had the other schoolgirls who were kidnapped then, and they were released, this hasn't actually stopped. So it comes back to the Safe School program you talked about. Let's see if we can close on that. So what would you love to see from the government, concerning the children? I mean, we're here. How does it feel that we leave, the studios and someone hears that his or her child who's in school has been picked by some unknown people from school? So how do we secure our children? Let's close on that.
I think it has to be, we have to look at it holistically, from the point of view that the more security operatives will have to, man where they have school areas and all that, and I know in the urban, it's always very difficult for you to get issues like that. But once you go up and north, whereby a particular school can be very far and the next house that you'll be seeing will be kilometers away, So the government will have to find a way to secure those children, because we can't have another Chibok or another Dapchi in our hands. Even after this government, we don't want to hear about it. In Zamfara, we've been hearing things like that, and not about school anyway, but the government will have to do more. It's either they increase the personnel that man the school area, or they find other means, Other means can be maybe vigilantes,
All
right, then you want to put a word in that?
Yes, the federal government should raise fences, because most of these girls' schools, especially in the northeast, at least I've been to some in Maiduguri, in Borno State. They didn't, even as at 2002, there were no fences. So those girls used to complain about rapists coming in, but the school authorities did not want us to talk about it. But now it has gone beyond that. So they need to, first of all, raise the fences and then get security men to man the place.
Well, security matters concerning Leah Sharibu. We'll take a moment. When we'll come back, we'll continue with some other topics here on Journalist Hangout. Good to know you're still there. In politics, when the chips are down, people look up to their leader to pull them out of such difficulties. Now, the leadership of the governing All Progressives Congress, APC, is wading into the crisis, rocking the Zamfara state chapter of the party. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed hope that the crisis threatening the exclusion of APC candidates in the state from the coming elections will soon be addressed. Now, the president spoke at the campaign in Gusau on Sunday. President Buhari, who could not hand out the party's flag to the candidates as a sign of respect to the rule of law, told them that all hope is not lost. Zamfara, the APC, and what's going to happen in some weeks before that election. What do you make of this? Is it coming too late?
Well, is it coming too late? Because the APC, they've been going around about their normal business, campaigning and doing rallies in almost all the local government, areas. And that seems to me that they have confidence that they will win at the courts, and they are not taking that to chance at all. In case it falls in their laps, then they already have everything going on for them, because you can't just sit down and say, okay, you want to wait, you have to keep campaigning, just like what happened in Rivers before, just like what happened in Rivers, I know Tony Eko was campaigning. I didn't really see that of Magnus, but I know Tony Eko was going from one local government to the other, just like this in Zamfara. The governor has been going from one local government to the other, telling people that they have to vote the APC. But since the president is now, giving them hopes, it's just like something is really going to come up or come out from the Zamfara, But unfortunately, some hours back, I heard that 3 of the justices actually withdrew, at the appeal court, So meaning that would be a major setback to the Zamfara APC, that is the governorship, or even the entire Zamfara election. We don't know when another set of judges will be
constituted, yeah.
Constituted. And this means that in the next 1 month, because it's going to be 1 month, after the presidential, it will take another 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks is the governorship, as well as the National House of Assembly. So the Zamfara
how
issue,
they manage that? Because looking at time.
That is what I'm looking at. The Zamfara issue is going to be very, very dicey.
Help me here, Janet. That was why I asked Asuko if this is not coming too late from the leadership, now looking at the president, who is also the party's leader. Did they sit idly by, watching what was unfolding in Zamfara, thinking that, hey, come off it, I think we're going to get by and just, coast home, to victory? But now it doesn't look
it doesn't look like that anymore, because they can see clearly that there is trouble in the house. It's an intra-party problem. Brothers are at war, and they have seen that it is only the national leadership that can resolve that. If they're able to resolve, and that's a task, a big task before the national leadership of APC, because they have till March 1st when campaigns will end. But I don't think it's too late. Even 2 weeks to election, even 1 week to election, I think that if the problem is resolved by the courts, like the president said, the matter is in court. So it's only the court that can actually resolve. And that's why there is even an extent to which we can comment before we are charged for contempt of court on the issue. However, we hope that the crisis will be resolved by the court, and the brothers will bury their hatchets and obey the rule of law. If not, the party will suffer for it. The party will not contest election. And the people who are supposed to vote for them, they will lose a lot by not resolving the problem ahead of the election. Let me
sound a little bit more distant and say, who cares whether they resolve it or not? If they really do care about it as political party and care for the people, they should have actually put this behind them long before now and not wait close to, election day. Looking at what Asuko has highlighted, it doesn't seem as if they have all the time in the world. And if that doesn't happen, well, that's dust in the face of, for the APC in Zamfara State.
Exactly, because I think what they would have done would have been before, because, first it was the deadline that INEC actually set out was when they would have resolved. Before that deadline, if they had even, consulted and put one name, they would have settled it. At the NWC, the NEC, or National Working Committee of the party, should have done that, way back, and make sure that this thing is resolved, so that the candidates or the aspirants will be the ones to go to court. You understand? I think that should have been the right thing they would have done, rather than them not even submitting names before the deadline. And that is where the big issue is. Now, I saw the governor, going out and saying, okay, there's a court case that they actually submitted. So it's left for the court now to help him out, because the governor is just an executive member, he's just here. But the court will have to determine if all those documents he was holding, they are actually true, and if it's permissible. Because as we speak, Zamfara is not even in INEC's register. Now,
let's speak within the realm of optimism shown by Nigerian politicians. It was Janet who said that for some Nigerian politicians, promises are meant to be broken. Even from the day one, as they make the promise, they know that definitely this is a promise I'm not just going to keep. So, looking at their optimism.
Is the definition of politicians.
Looking at the optimism shown by politicians, even because we're closing on this, looking at the optimism we've seen amongst politicians, especially within the APC, and we've seen that in other states where a governor gets, to back another candidate, and you say, okay, you will vote for the president, but for this, you vote for another party's candidate and all that. What do you think is going on within within the party?
That is a problem, because it is alleged that the governor is the cause of all these problems. There were no primaries. He insisted there were primaries twice. The first one, there was violence, 6 people died, and the professor that came to oversee the election went back and declared that there was no election. But the governor allegedly asked them to continue. He even collated the results and said there were primaries. The second time that was held on October 6th, the same thing. So you could see that the crisis is within themselves, and he had been pointed by those who are, saying that he is the one causing this problem. But, well, I hope that the court will resolve it before the gubernatorial election in March 2nd.
Well, when we return after now, a whole lot has been happening. At the CCT trial, Onoge insists he made his money legitimately, just as the NJC has issued him another fresh query. Stay with us. Sometimes some lyrical, songs have been playing up in my head. Hunter becoming the hunted. But again, in life, you know how that can actually happen so much that the hunter can become the hunted in just a wink. Well, Nigeria's suspended Chief Justice Walter Onoge is putting up a stout defense in his trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal over discrepancies in his answers declaration form. Justice Onoge, who is facing a 6-count charge before the CCT, insisted that he legitimately earned the huge funds found in 5 separate bank accounts linked to him. Now, he said they were proceeds from his trade in foreign exchange, agri-code, as well as other investments. And just before we went on this show, the NJC came out of a meeting issuing fresh query and also giving him another deadline for him to return that, report concerning what he's been asked to, answer to. Now, let's start with you, Janet. This story is a story that truly can't go away yet, even after the elections. What do you make of the progression of the story so far?
What I make of it is that it's going to be one of the most controversial stories of crisis in Nigeria's judiciary, because the story has started and is not going to end any soon. Some lawyers are saying the only way this story can end is to sack Onoge and sack Tanko Mohammed, and then there'll be peace. However, what this story brings to fore or to light is that there is a deep problem in the administration of justice and in justice delivery in Nigeria, and that there is a serious crisis of confidence. It also brings to fore that the system of self-regulation of the judiciary is no longer as strong as it is expected to be. Some lawyers are saying NJC is ineffective, that NJC is ineffective when it comes to discipline involving senior ranking judicial officers. They don't like to touch them, and that the proceedings of NJC and their internal processes too are unduly opaque. That means they are not transparent in their dealings. So they're calling for a reform to review the NJC and see what is really going on. That is for NJC. On the side of the government, what is happening now is a consequence or the consequences of the suspension of Onoge without input from the Senate or from the NJC. That is what is happening. So from the two sides, there are crises. Onoge, there's a procedure that should have been followed for the suspension of Onoge, which was not followed. And the federal government appointed Mohammed Tanko, which is another unconstitutional action taken by the government. It violates the constitution, which says that you cannot appoint a chief justice, even in acting capacity, without the recommendation of NJC. That's 1999 Constitution, section 231, subsection 1. That's what it says, that you cannot appoint without the recommendation of the NJC, subject to confirmation by the Senate. So that one too is wrong. Then in section 4 of that same section, subsection 4 of that section also says that in case maybe the CJN is unable to perform his role and you want to bring in somebody else, the person must act for just 3 months, unless maybe recommended by the NJC for further action. And in section 5, it says that the subsection 5 continues that even if the person acts for 3 months, like Tanko is acting now, and at the end of the 3 months, he's not confirmed by the Senate, he can no longer be the acting CJN, and the government cannot reappoint him. Do you see the...
There's a dilemma. Don't forget that the nation will need someone to swear in whoever wins the presidential election.
That's 3 months. He has 3 months. So
let me come to Asuko here. Looking at what has happened, and of course the very latest coming in from the NJC. First, they concluded quite a lot. They had to they received a new petition written by the Economic and Financial, that's the EFC, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against Justice Onoge, and also forwarded same to him so that he can respond within 7 days. They also did another thing which many have applauded the NJC. They reaffirmed their confidence in Honorable Mr. Justice Umaru Abdullahi and want him to continue in his interim chairmanship. So does this also look towards what Juliet has painted, looking as, to see as if we have two people, two key individuals here in the spotlight that may get burnt or may just get, the good air at the end of the day?
I think, well, if you say two good people, right, well, you're right, but since this Onogen's story came out, I see, and just like many other Nigerians, the judiciary as one of the sacred arms of government, that if at all the Senate is not too clean and the executive is not too clean, the judiciary has to be clean, because they say judges are like the second God. You understand? So when this Onoge issue came out, I had expected Onoge immediately to say, okay, I'm going to step down immediately and let them investigate me. Only for us to, whether he said it or he did not say it, that he forgot to, declare those sums of, amounts of money. And that is where so many people are doubting him as a person.
Can we say so many people? We'll say some people. Let's say some people.
Okay, let's say some people are doubting him. His character. You understand? So I say that because people will be asking, you are just an ordinary justice. You might have money, but will it be all this? And instead you forgot. Dangote, people have been saying that Dangote cannot forget such an amount of money and things like that.
And some will tell you that it is only a poor man who thinks that
way.
Because if you have so much, you can actually forget some accounts.
You understand? So those issues, to me, I think like he being a judge, and if when they say, you stole something or you took something, and you didn't, and that your name matters a lot, you will fight tooth and nail to make sure that your name is clean.
But isn't that what he's doing? Because when everyone when some say he should have just stood down, step aside or resign, what if that was what those who never liked him or wanted him there were up to? So he's saying that
if he wanted to,
if you say these were legitimately earned,
even if people.
So what should the government, what should the investigators, or rather NJC and the CC be doing now that he said these were, he's not running away from, don't forget, he's not running away saying that these monies aren't mine, but he's giving them more clue as to why these are legitimate
the thing
monies
is,
earned.
let me use that as some of those people will also claim that because he's running away from CCT, running away left, right, and center, then he has something hidden, And that is why I keep saying that if he knows that it's clean, and he knows that, okay, this is my name, he will do everything humanly possible to make sure that if this case is done with immediately, just like you are saying, I know that the president, the executive, they took an action that shouldn't have been, because it is completely out of what our constitution says, if you look at it. Because for you to remove a sitting CJN, the NJC has to be there. For you to even bring another one, the NJC will have to recommend, and the Senate will even put mouth. And that is why they say those three arms of government, they work hand in hand. There is no one that you want to remove that the other one won't know about. You know? But this is more of a moral, issue to me than even the technicalities, because if anything happens to the judiciary, then what happens to the poor man out there?
Juliet, you were going to say something.
Yes, there is no doubt that the judiciary is like the holy temple. So when the master, the lord of the holy temple, is accused of unrighteousness, so what happens? Again, there are certain facts that are not contestable. It is generally perceived by some people that the judiciary is corrupt. And some lawyers have even come out to also allege that, because they say that some unscrupulous litigants, they connive or they approach complicit lawyers and some sons to procure judgment through corrupt means, or they procure court order, they procure court judgment through corrupt means. And because of that, people no longer have confidence in the judiciary. Even in the NJC, that when litigants write petitions to NJC will not touch the petition. There are heaps of petitions gathering in the NJC's office, which there is no resolution. And so the people are confused that what is going on in the judiciary. So this is a test case to either clean up that judiciary completely, or the government knows what to do.
Because I think it looks first, listening to both of you, it's a case of two wrongs not making right here. Exactly. And it will also seem as if, well, the government, knowing full well that two wrongs don't make a right, decide to make its own wrong and say, after all, when this goes out to the public, the spotlight will be off us and be on this justice.
Unfortunately, the spotlight is not off them, because there are lawyers. In fact, not only lawyers are divided on this matter. Some are standing on the ground of procedure.
But
others are holding...
It's a dimmer spotlight on the government, if you ask me.
Dimmer spotlight
because it has moved away.
Because when we talk about the government, sometimes we don't put an individual there. So this is more serious, because you have an individual whose name is being dragged in the mud here, in the person of Justice Onoge.
Yes.
But in the person whose name do you drag in the mud or in the waters when you talk about the government? So that is why it looks as if the government deliberately did what they did and say, well, whether we like it or not, we don't have a name that will be, pulled across with this.
Okay, let me just conclude that thought. Some people are looking at the procedure, others are looking at the substance. So they say, don't let us look at the merits or demerits of the actions from the actors. There are two actors, one for Noge and the other one for the government. If you begin to look at the merit and demerit, maybe the matter will not be solved. That's why some of them are looking for soft landing for Onoge, face-saving landing, so that his name, what has happened may bring down his reputation in the eyes of right-thinking members of the society, because his entire career, somebody who was called to bar in 1978.
And that is why he's fighting to clear his name.
Yes, that's why it's the battle of his life.
I said, that is why people who say he should have resigned, I think that they're not being honest or being nice to him, because it's about his name and his career
and his
over
character.
the years. And so he has to fight it. Now he's said this. Well, perhaps don't you think that, the NJC they will reconvene on Wednesday on this matter.
Yes.
Don't you think that the NJC is doing a good job of it? It should have been such, cool, calm, and collected atmosphere. Go answer, bring your reply, let us look at it. Do you think that we should leave these within the realm or within the purview of the NJC to handle?
If we want to follow procedure, that's where it should be. But because the government does not have confidence in what will come out of NJC.
Have they said that?
Why do I say that? That's why they suspended him. They did not go through NJC, and even the appointment of the new CJ, the acting CJN, did not go through the Senate for confirmation, and it was not even the highest.
If they were out of line, how do we kick them back in line, the government now?
No, I think the government would be forced to, to respect whatever decisions the NJC, will be bringing out, because we are all waiting for the recommendation now, The NJC doesn't have the government side. I want to say that they don't have the for and against, Now they have a neutral person. So whoever is going to come, should be somebody that the government will have to respect. And
That's
whatever recommendation.
Yeah, and he was a former president of the appeal court.
Exactly. So we are all waiting for the NJC, And thank God the NJC now has given the interim chairman that he should go ahead, that they have confidence in him. So the federal government, or the executive arm of government, let me use that word, should also have confidence in the NJC. So whatever recommendation that comes, they should take it.
And the same day the CCT is inviting Onoge, that's the same day the NJC is sitting. So I don't know how it's going to...
So I think that there must be some kind of, way to actually get this out. The credible electoral process is one other aspect that we really must start looking at. And with voting of a lot of people happening in so many other communities. When we come back, we'll be looking at how this is playing out in terms of security, in terms of materials, in terms of the umpire, and even the voter on the D-Day. Let's see if we can do a quick one here. Now, the credible electoral process does not start and end with voting activities on election day. Of particular importance is the safety of electoral officers and materials before, during, and even after the election. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has ordered watertight security at all offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, across the country. This followed a fire incident that destroyed electoral materials at INEC office in Kwampan, local government area of Plateau State on Sunday. Now, by the directive, commissioners of police in the 36 states and Abuja are to ensure the safety of INEC officers and materials from danger before, during, and after the elections. It looks like deja vu. We've seen this before. This is not the first time. We've seen few days to elections, and you just hear of an inferno. How does this happen? How does it come to you? Because sometimes I close my eyes and I say, I've seen this before, I've heard this before, but this is 2019.
Well, it's expected. Some people are working very hard to make sure that the election is credible, hitch-free, while some other people are working even harder to make sure that the election does not go as peaceful as it is expected to be. Because the Plateau State incident was the second in 1 week. The first one was on February 2nd in Isialangwa, South Local Government area of Abia State. Yeah. Then we heard of this one. And the excuse, the reason given for the fire, in fact, I was wondering that they said the man who was in charge, the security man, decided to burn some items. You heard it too, Suleiman. That decided to burn some items to give room for more things coming in from INEC. He didn't know that the fire was not completely...
It's Hamatan.
And the wind.
It's Hamatan, and it can be windy.
It can be windy. So look at the cause of the carelessness, the windy situation.
You said carelessness. Did you believe that? Did you believe that?
That's what they said. That's what they have to say something. However, the topic here is that the IG has ordered. He didn't just order on his own. It was at the prompting of INEC. Yesterday, INEC had to make formal complaint to him, asking that all the offices nationwide need to be secured because of the losses. About 3,000 voters' cards were burnt down in Isialangwa. Yes, the just was about 6,000. I'm just making it about 5,000 now. So I'm just giving an estimation. About 6,000, 14 generators, uncollected PVCs, ballot boxes, cubicles, and all that. Just look at it. Now, INEC wants to print For the plateau, they have to reprint PVCs, and they're asking that all those who were ready, who wanted to collect should come. So some people did not register, may also show face, because now there is confusion. So how do you now identify who registered, who did not register? You understand? They said everybody should come, that before the election on Saturday, they will make new PVCs.
Do you think INEC has that capacity, knowing full well they've always talked about having a data bank where all of these are warehoused? So perhaps the fear which Janet is nursing now, do you think INEC can actually surmount such challenge, before election day?
Well, as we speak, Sulai, there are so many people out there who are finding it very difficult to get their PVCs, even when they registered many years back, So if, for instance, you had PVC, you are seeing your PVC and your PVC is burnt, So I don't know how INEC, I know there are contingency plans, for this in the budget, but how soon, will this, come out? Yeah, they might have the database where the names and everything, they can bring out that one, but printing another PVC, and today is the last day for collection of PVC.
Absolutely.
So are you going to extend the days for the people in Plateau State or where this thing happened for them to come and check if their PVC was actually burnt?
And 6,000 people.
And that is 6,000. That is. So, and we've not even checked where this actually happened, whether it is the stronghold of the opposition or you understand, we've not even checked that one too, because that one will be another issue entirely. So, but we know that there are always plans for things like this. But how soon will the new PVCs be out for the people, for these 6,000, registered voters? Because they are registered, these are PVCs that are already there, they are registered. So how soon will it? INEC has to come out. Perhaps the national chairman will have to come out and categorically assure these people that they will vote.
While we do that, quickly, we'll close on this. Do you think that the Nigeria police is still, not being proactive on issues like this? Should they wait for such damage to be done before issuing such orders and asking men and officers to move all out and see how they can secure such facilities? One would have thought ordinarily you have some policemen keep watch over such facilities before election day.
Yes, that's what should happen in an ideal situation. But these are not headquarters. These are local governments, councils, but notwithstanding, even if it's
anyway,
a ward,
you have such
even if it's a ward,
yes.
So long as you have INEC materials, both sensitive and non-sensitive materials there, they need to be protected. Because when you expose them and the people around there know, like the story of the Plateau, only one man was there. So it's a story. He was going to the police station to lodge complaint, and before he came, this other one has already been consumed by fire. So I think police sometimes are not proactive. Maybe they don't have enough personnel, but from now, I hope that all these local government areas will be properly protected and secured.
Even before,
your last word on this.
Yeah, I think even before the IG made this pronouncement, everybody knows the election is some days back. So all the police force are supposed to have been deployed to all the INEC offices or wherever they need to be. It shouldn't just be about them manning the stations or polling units on election days. All the INEC offices should by now be manned by police officers, So we shouldn't have stuff like this, happening, because it is so disheartening. 6,000 people, we don't know if they will vote, and that is going to be another talking point by the time the election starts.
Well, many thanks, Asuko James, and of course, thank you very much, Janet Mbafalabi, for spending time with me here in the studios. And of course, also remember that as you move towards this election, violence must not be one of the things that you put before or during that day. Well, that's it on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Sulaiman. Later, bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.